Yeah, didn't know how to dress today. You know, woke up, it was so cold. Put my wool like robe thing on.
We could be really good when you're talking from right there.
Yeah. Oh, this is the sweet spot?
That's the sweet spot.
Okay. Whoop. I'll be standing close anyway because I've got my flip deck that guides me. Hello, ladies. Greetings. Awesome. So glad you're here.
My name is Kira Audrin, and I just want to let you know a little bit about me. I'm a sixth-generation psychic. I've been channeling for 18 years of intergalactic ascension updates for the collective consciousness, steering and assisting, providing information from many different realms for this day and age, this time, and how we are going to continue shifting forward. I am a multidimensional quantum field reader. I train psychics and healers around the world. I participate in a yoga teacher training school in Colorado where I reside right now. And before we get started, I would like for each and every one of us to please create an intention for yourself, for the collective. We are going to start off by shaking out any nerves or expectations or beliefs or preconceived ideas around this weekend. By grounding and opening up our multidimensional energy fields through the sound of Om. Has anybody ever chanted the sound of Om? Yeah? Yeah. All right, and if it's your first time, no worries, we can all do this. I want you to just, any judgments that you may have around tuning and opening your voice, I'm going to ask that you just let that go, okay? When we chant here in a moment, I'm going to ask that you point your consciousness, take the third eye, just take your those ideas, thoughts, I want you to think about the tailbone, the sound of Om coming from the base, from the earth plane, up, out, into the cosmos. So if you'll please close your eyes. Take a deep inhalation in through the nose, and exhale, drop the shoulders down. Opening up the field of light behind the heart space. Taking your awareness to the tailbone, your earth anchor. Calling forth your essence, your remembrance of your divinity, your connection to all that is. Give yourself permission to sing to the heavens. Give yourself permission to open. And as we chant the sound of Om, follow your own voice, your own rhythm. One more deep inhalation in through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. Inhale to Om. Oh
just notice if you feel more stabilized and open. When you're ready, open your eyes. Our dear sister Megan talked about in brief service, active service, and we're going to be exploring that together over the next 50 minutes or so. Just 1 second, we wanted to know a little time so we go over.
You want to start?
So we're going to be exploring many different dimensions of consciousness within the body, as well as practical applications, practical tools that we can bring forward in our daily life through the path of ascension. But first and foremost, can we agree that we are that bridge? We are that bridge in consciousness, and it happens through the body, yeah?
Yeah.
Have fun. Sometimes it's like a wild ride, right? Where you get foggy or purge. I'm sure, I don't know about you, but some of my personal experiences this last year has been a lot of fatigue, a lot of purging. You're like, oh, when is this going to end? But what's phenomenal is that we are equipped. The body and the body's intelligence is equipped to not only host higher dimensions of consciousness within the heart and mind, but can continue to evolve and change and morph to be that, not be, because we are that perfect host, but open up and activate the original design, the original blueprint of our divinity, okay? And so as we're moving through these waves of ascension, as we're remembering and learning, how to navigate, how to pull through these etheric and astral realms and ideas, we want to be mindful to ground, right? Present, to be active and take action, okay? And so in a lot of the work that I do, what I've been seeing for the last 18 years is, we've been remembering, we're connected to the stars, we're connected to the cosmos, and there's a little bit more going on than what meets the eye, right? And thank goodness for each and every one of you for doing the work, and more brothers and sisters around the planet, because each and every one of us has been seated here in some way to contribute. And so while it's fun to have these experiences and bringing forward our gifts, our abilities, and contribute to the whole, we don't want to get stuck there. We want to be active participants in service to one another, in service to the divine. However that looks for each and every one of us, because it is our own soul's journey, and to respect that within ourselves and others. So I know for me, most of my life, I had a really hard time being present in the body. Has anyone else experienced that? You're just kind of like floating out there, like really challenging to talk, kind of feeling like, I don't even know if I'm from here. Am I connected? You know what I mean? So I want to talk about how those of us who are, we're pulling through all these higher dimensional frequencies, how to ground that into the body, beyond the chakra system, beyond the nadis, beyond all these energy systems, okay? It's easy. We want to explore the body, physical body, our mental consciousness, our emotional consciousness, our spiritual consciousness, and how that is woven through our multidimensional consciousness. So I'm gonna be hanging out a little bit more in the ethers with you guys, and then we're gonna drop it down. So part of our path, I think that we're on the same journey in some way, right? Is self-realization and soul-realization. Yeah. Why? Have we asked that? Yeah, why? I don't know. What do you think?
It's our destiny.
It's our destiny.
That's why we're here.
Grow.
To grow.
Balance.
Matter without spirit is meaningless, and spirit without matter is expressionless.
Beautiful.
What did you say?
Matter without spirit is meaningless, and spirit without matter is expressionless.
Any other golden nuggets?
Throw a path back to source.
Yeah. Go us.
Indeed.
Do you ever feel stuck?
Oh,
Like, well, there's all this stuff going up on here, but can what I'm experiencing and part of my multidimensional consciousness, can it drop down? You guys ever feel like that? Kind of wobbly, or we have the soul self-realization, but can we drop it down in the body, in the vehicle? Are we the elements? Yeah. Okay. So I wanna chat about these nine gates that I usually teach on, as to that we want to be mindful of through our path of ascension, through pulling through our divine intelligence, essentially, and how each soul and soul's experience can weave through the building blocks of matter, our bodies, and continue to pull through our soul's intelligence. So the first is going to be our connection with our sacred mother, Mother Gaia. And I like to describe this. Now, excuse me, I just want to say here, there's many schools of thought and idea out there. What I say, please just take it with a grain of salt. Just let your soul and your heart, filter through the information. And whatever rings true for you, just let it be. So the first dimension is the core of the earth, the ability to access higher states of consciousness and connection to other planets. And she's a transmitter, all right? We are her, she is us. And so on our path of ascension, as I was describing for me, I was just feeling like, oh my God, am I even in my body? We can be not so connected to Mother Gaia and what she's transmitting. And so we want to practice being in the vessel, being in the body, because when we have been going through waves of spiritual awakening, it's so easy to hang out in the ethers, but we want to be mindful of our temple. Okay, so we're going to be talking about the body, okay, and the elements within the body, not as an etheric concept, but the importance and relevance as to why we want a conscious interaction with our body to continue to, or we embrace even more our sacred vessel as that host, as that anchor, as the bridge of light. The second dimension are minerals, right, and the mineral kingdom within the earth, the primal elements, okay. The second dimension, the ferric realms. How many of you might consider yourself like a grid worker or a gate worker? Yeah? Water consciousness, crystalline realms. Yeah, this plays out in the second dimension of our bodies and our connection to Mother Gaia. And another planetary realms as well, okay? The third dimension, the realm of polarity, right? When I like to talk about when the earth fell, and maybe we were not so connected. We're on that path back to, we heard soul realization, our path back to source, right? We heard everything that we were bringing forward. This plays out in the body, in our waking consciousness, okay? As well as our dream state. I am not that person. And this is where all of these realms that we're going to be talking about and experiencing connects, right? We want that conscious connection to the first, second, third dimensional realities of the body, the building blocks of matter. Because that's where all of our divine intelligence arises from and becomes conscious. Okay, so we're not just kind of floating out in the ethers. We're present and we can bring forward our gifts, bring forward our acts of service. Okay. I describe the third dimension as where all other dimensional frequencies anchor to. The human experience. Fourth dimensional consciousness. I've been feeling and sensing that the planet moved more into the fourth dimensional consciousness state about 2 years ago. We're still graduating, right? Thank you. And we're remembering, right? We're remembering our gifts. We are remembering telepathy. We are remembering our healing gifts and how to be active participants. So fourth dimension, I feel like that's kind of where we're, like fourth, fifth, and higher is where we're hanging out this weekend. And the planet and how we're continuing to shift, as well as the star system. This is where our growth really becomes conscious, meaning our emotional responses to the human experience, our past lives, cleansing, ancestral lines cleansing. Oh, who's going through that? Yeah. Reaction versus response. The ability to be conscious and change our timelines. This is areas, is this kind of what's played out for you guys? Yeah? Yeah. This is some heavy lifting in the fourth dimension that we're doing. Thank you so much. Because it does take all of us. So what's unique about the fourth dimension, as humanity continues to awaken or remember, is that the fourth dimension, there's a lot of cosmic noise out there, right? And so when we bring forward and evoke our soul's memory, we want, in my limited awareness, we want to anchor to God above all. The source of all this. So that way we can continue to filter out the noise and other agendas and the ethers and the other realms. That we are on that equal plane. That we are powerful. That God's voice, the spoken word through us, is as equally as maybe important governing source. That's what we're here for, maybe.
Absolutely.
That pillar of God anchoring through the body, not just a concept. So this bridge of light, your sacred vessel, your mental consciousness, our spiritual consciousness, our emotional consciousness, steers us back to God. We want, hopefully, maybe we can get a little bit more curious about presence. What does it mean to be present through all these realms? As our timelines maybe get triggered for release and healing and processing, guys, this ride's not gonna stop, okay? But surrender to action, to surrender to God. Again, not as this concept, but as a way of expression and service. I feel is the way to go. And hopefully we continue to get a little bit more curious about that. The fourth dimension can promote polarity or unity consciousness. Yeah, we are in control. Control through surrender. Does that make sense? Yeah.
So you mean when you say polarity, you mean like
Duality, yeah, sure. You know, how the mind can attach good or bad, me versus you, you know, yeah. Any sort of imprint on the psyche or the soul that takes us away from not the experience, not the attachment to the experience, but God in the body, God present in the vessel. Yeah. So we can notice, and so I'm hoping that as we're kind of exploring these 9-dimensional states of consciousness, that we have these little, oh, I'm in the 4th dimension right now. Okay, I'm experiencing polarity. Are you guys into like manifestation? Yeah. I kind of heard some conversations about, you know, manifestation earlier, so I'm going to put that in here. When we get emotional triggers or mental triggers or spiritual triggers, we can either steer our path towards unity consciousness first, again in the body, within the self and soul, or we can allow ourselves to succumb to fear. I'm not here for that, are you?
Oh, I was just going to say to your question, there's a difference between duality and polarity. So polarity has to deal with energy, right? Male and female is how we experience here in the 3rd dimension, and the law and gender and universal law. Duality has to do with separation consciousness, and that's what happens. That's also the experiment of the 3rd. But polarity continues throughout the dimensions because it's an energetic representation.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, I'm not going to talk about this one. You are. It's kind of a buzzword. Has been a buzzy word in my experience for the last 11 or 12 years. Let's talk about 5th dimensional consciousness. You go. What's 5D?
Authenticity, walking in fully in your truth without question, complete faith, fully in abundance and support of all things that are unlimited and great, and in pure alignment with love and compassion.
Hey.
Well, I think that I think there might also be like I like the way you explain this because I think there might be a misconception about what 5D really is, and really we're all on this spiraling path of consciousness, right? And the higher you go, the more love there is, right? The more self-love, so the more love, the more community, right? And that's when things like telepathy start to open up because if you experience this realm as a telepath, it's actually really harsh because people are in control of their feelings because they've been working through a lot of pain. So the higher we go, the more communal we are. And that's when things like what we're talking about with the monetary system make a change. When people learn to have reciprocity instead of energy, then we don't need money anymore to represent that, right? So it's more connection, it's more community, and it's what everyone here is craving because we're in that separation state. And people, it's love. Like the first time I encountered someone from Venus, I was just oh, give me a hug. Oh God, that feels so good. I haven't felt love in so long. And so it's just more connection, less separation, more being part of the one. And it's like what Sai Baba said to me before I came to the Red Desert. He said, when you are one, then you are done.
And what I was going to add, yes, in 1 second, is one phrase, unity consciousness for me. Yeah.
Once you get to the 5th dimension, it separates everything that you've been through from a child. You're able to put everything in place, and once you get to the 5th dimension, you can see where everything is out of place and remove it. So once you get to the 5th dimension, you can see your entire life, and then you can see where you're supposed to be, and everything that's not connected to the 5th dimension has to leave. You become so powerful in the 5th dimension that your whole entire life comes into a spiral that does not go down It's a spiral that goes up. And once you get to the top of the fifth dimension, you can see the entire spiral. And in the top of the spiral, everything that's not supposed to be has to filter itself out. Because now you can see all the different connections and all the separation of your entire life.
Amen.
Absolutely. Now, that's what's happening now. It's very uncomfortable.
Yeah, that fourth dimensional
And
attachment.
when you start seeing that you were part of your own problem, then you have to face that you did this, that this was you, that this was you, that this was you, you made this decision. Life is a sum of the decisions that you have made. So once you get to the fifth dimension, you got to be strong enough to realize that once you're there, this is the mistake that I made. But you also need to separate, these are some things that was not my fault. When you get to the fifth dimension, you will see every single detail of what was not your fault. That you grew up in this, that you was around this, that this happened. Then you separate what you did, what happened to you, and then all of it, regardless of if it was your fault or not, has to filter itself out.
True.
Thank you for your voice.
I think it's also a dropping of the ego,
Oh, yes.
and it's understanding that we're here to serve, and that's our purpose, is service to others. And that's when we also kind of really figure out that every thought that we think matters, and manifestation becomes incredibly quick. You can have a thought, a fleeting thought, and 20 minutes later, you're reaping what you sow. So it's a quickening, if you will, of learning.
I hope.
Indeed. The more we surrender and detach, the quicker the acceleration occurs, where your divine consciousness is embodied within you.
In my notes, I have love, unconditional love, the gravitational pull to what pulls you to love. Love, I'm not talking about emotional consciousness or the attachment, but a vibration that is unstruck, cannot be penetrated. You are that, we are that. Unity consciousness. So I'm going to kind of move a little bit quicker. 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. I usually like to share the ninth gates of where we connect with the soul frequencies, right? 6th, geometric forms, sacred geometry, where light and sound manifests through the 5th dimension and begins to connect with our psyche, connect with matter, right? The body. It helps us redirect any sort of fragmented consciousness in the light fields that we are connected to. Yeah? Alignment to cosmic forces. So when we work with sacred geometry, when we work with these divine imprints, we can quickly shift. And it changes, has the ability to impact and influence our psyche, our emotions, how we navigate through all these realms, and deepen our connection to the soul's path. 7th dimensional frequencies, the light codes, sound, the original sounds that are weaving through you, weaving through all of us. How many of you have had maybe any experiences hearing sound? I mean, not just like through instruments, but in the ether. Okay, yeah. It's natural. Part of our process and coming back online, where our sacred bodies experiencing our cosmic consciousness. 8th, where darkness turns to light, clarity, cosmic consciousness, access to intergalactic federations and other councils, the stars, cosmic councils, these guys. And probably all of us are connected in some way. Yeah. 9th, soul origin, time, space. Access to our soul blueprints in, to me, that's a little bit different than past life energy. Yeah. and where we pass through the womb of creation, the web of creation. Okay. And so with that, I was kind of tapping into some of the timeline reading from March to now and through the summer. And soul gets a new experience. So these blueprints that the soul has been carrying, we get the opportunity for our souls to have a new experience right now in waking life. How exciting. Can you feel that? More freedom, liberation across timelines, through our generations, with Mother Gaia, and the star system. We get the sacred opportunity for the soul to be not necessarily rebirthed, be refreshed. I like airy. So how, right? Okay, this is fun, right? These are great conversations, right? But what happens after this weekend? What are we gonna do? How are we gonna act? How are we gonna be?
Agents of positive change?
Yes, action. Acts of service. But what happens as we're moving through, I just need to change how I'm connecting with you guys right now. What happens when we get these little triggers in the ethers, or this higher dimensional consciousness begins to push the restraints or limitations through our mind and emotions? What are we going to do? Are we going to chill and relax and do what we got to do, or are we going to be active participants in how God wants to move through us? Proactive. So first is awareness, right? Through the emotional consciousness, the mental and spiritual consciousness. Okay. How we ideally want the four main bodies, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, to be harmonized, right? Oh my gosh. Was that challenging sometimes? Or can you get exciting? Yeah?
Maybe at the end.
What'd you say?
Maybe at the end is uplifting.
Yeah.
Once you get there,
Right.
it's uplifting and exciting.
Until the next spiral up.
Yeah.
The mind is the bridge. The heart is the bridge. And I like to describe the womb as the gateway to the soul.
Do I have one of those? Do I have one?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good.
Each and every one of us does. We have womb consciousness. So, my dear brothers, of course, thank you. Truly. So presence, we want to develop the mind. Yeah? We don't want to connect or have the attachment to the limitations of the mind. The mind is infinite. It can create a lot of stories. But what's true and what we are realigning to is God's mind. Physical awareness, subtle body awareness. Subtle body, How many are familiar with what I mean when I say subtle body? Okay. So in short, I'm going to do this. All right. Stop. Feel. Close your eyes. Nervous system is responding to touch. You've opened, stimulated the bioelectromagnetic field. Close your eyes, take your awareness between the left and right eye. Connected to the third eye, take your awareness to the tailbone. You're now stimulating the root chakra. Take your awareness to the navel, the belly button. Begin to breathe from that space. We are comprised of unseen realms, unseen energy channels through the two eyes. We are comprised of energy that is the same as the energetic, whether it be moving or stagnant. So awareness, having the awareness that light or higher dimensional consciousness, it travels through these subtle energy fields, hits the body, and it influences the mind, the emotional and spiritual consciousness. So we can be moving through our ascension process and we can feel something twitch or emotions can come from. Where is that coming from? We want to be aware of not just the physical, but aware to the quantum field. Get a little more curious about that because that's where the divine intelligence is flowing through us. Can we get locked out of that? Yeah. But what's exciting is that the more that we get curious and we begin to feel and utilize the mind, utilize the emotional intelligence, and utilize the spirit, we can open these fields of light within. We want to, what's so beautiful about our bodies is vibration is always communicating to us. The auric field, the bioelectromagnetic field is always taking in information, okay? And it begins to hit our aura, and it'll translate through the auric field and connects with the body. Has anyone ever had an encounter where you walk into like a dense place and the hair's okay? You experience your subtle body. Okay? So why am I talking about this? That's where we're headed. Is a point of communication, higher integration. Okay. And soon, very soon, you will be experiencing and participating. So what does it mean to you to act in service, divine will? I just want to learn from you. What does that mean to you to be of service? Yeah.
Maggie.
For me, it means being a vessel for the divine to speak through, and loving myself enough to respond when it's yes, and loving myself to not intervene or interfere when it's a no. And so, just being a part of the we frequency instead of the me frequency.
Anyone else? Okay.
I've been through so many different things. I've been like I'm an ideal man of life. If I could, my whole thought pattern is if I could get somebody not to have to go through what I've been through, to give them the peace and the ability to work through a peaceful situation instead of having to go through the drudge of life, the pain, the heartache, the situations that they grew up in and walked into, and the service of watching somebody else's life being in a position where they can grow without the pain. even though pain, we need pain to grow to understand what's going on. But the unnecessary, because I deal with, I speak into the prisons, so I've been doing that for a long time. So you hear the extreme situations of the extreme people who went through the extreme stuff that have an extreme mind that don't think they will ever come out of the extreme. But to actually give somebody a chance, we went to a prison one time, and this man had not walked out, he got out of the wheelchair 15 years. So we went over there, and one of the guys that I'm training, we just put our hands on him, and he got out of the wheelchair. To be able to actually see somebody else not have to go through what we have been through, and then actually get a child and walk them through what life should be, and see them as a teenager and an adult without having to deal with the actual pain that should, of the fourth dimension and the third dimension be with it.
I think as a mom and having young children in this, make you appear very elementary in this group, but whenever my child would do something that was not in their own best interest, but if someone else could say, "You learned your wings today, good job." And so it could just be something very elementary like that, like you learned your wings today. Yeah.
I have to say one other thing, I'm sorry, but to also see him go through that, but then help somebody else. Yeah, that's the ultimate thing, that can now they're changing somebody.
Yeah, and that kind of sparks one of the main reasons that we're drawn in here, my partner and I, is because we feel it is necessary to empower as many people as possible to find that very direction and power within themselves to face all the fears and find all the love and heal all the pains. And you don't need the dependency of everything and everyone else outside of you. And there's so many things, even in our communities, we do energy work and healings, but we're not doing that. We're holding a space for them to do that and to help them see and empower them to say, hey, you can do this. You don't need a pill, you don't need a doctor, you don't need, you don't even need a church. You just need you and what you're already empowered to do. And sometimes I think ultimately in my mission, it all stems and comes from the base of self-love. Start with loving yourself, let that empower everything else in your life, and no guidance can misguide you. Nobody can misdirect you, accept responsibility for all things. As you were saying, like the actions and everything that you do, it's you, it's ultimately you. And just step into that and let go of judgment. There's no judgment. That is a construct. Creating judgment is separation. That is there to kind of bring you down and bring you away from grace.
What was the last thing you said?
That judgment is there as a construct, and it's there to bring you down and bring you away from grace.
That's beautiful. I'm going to talk about judgment here in a second. Do we experience judgment? Oh yeah, I do.
I like to say that it's more opinion. I don't have a charge on it, it's just an opinion.
So when you're talking about service, I think of, loving yourself, echoing what you said, and trusting yourself, and being a light, and realizing too, as the gentleman back there said, where I've been, I was there, now waking up, So judgment, we have to release that.
I love that you chose the word trust. Oh.
That's a hard one, a real hard one.
I think that judgment is the crystallization of reality. So you want to, if you're making a judgment on somebody, is that what you really want? Somebody's making a judgment about you, is that what you really want? So you have to step back and go, oh, there's a judgment here, do I really want this? And if you accept it, you want it, if you're a spiritual being, or, you're too out there.
Thank you for sharing.
Well, and of course, the self-realization path is that we're all one, right? So the more we embody that, really, we're just judging ourselves. So when we really embody that divine consciousness, we're just seeing that we're all, awakening and triggering one another to become our better selves. So we really just agree to, play these roles for each other. But in the end, it's all just one.
Judgment itself, you feel like you have been judged. If you look at it, you can always find the element where you were judging yourself. It's not necessarily about judging others, it's about if judgment's coming back, you're judging yourself. Otherwise, it would be right there in your face.
What I love about this is we've entered more of a fourth dimensional conversation. And I want to chat about trust real quick as we continue to ascend, as we continue to experience these light fields, moving through the body. It is and can be experiential, but can we trust that? Can we trust these frequencies coming in? Can we trust that my psyche is letting go of some deep soul trauma? Can we trust that we're going to be okay and the body's going to be okay, that we're going to continue to evolve, right? That call from God to continue to enter those deep caverns within the body, within the mind, within the heart, within the spirit. I believe that trust is that maybe that umbilical cord to source to God. Can we trust the I am presence within? What does that even mean?
Can you explain?
I'm going to. So before we get there, I want to give you guys some practical actions to take. Does anyone practice mantra? Mantra literally means to protect the mind, right? So because we're multidimensional beings, the mental consciousness of the third eye connects through the ethers, okay? So we want to protect that filtration system that hits the body. Okay, so mantra meditation. Mantra also connects with numerical codes. Okay, it has an effect again on the bioelectromagnetic field, on these frequencies coming into the body that influences the mind and the emotion and spiritual consciousness. So taking up some sort of practice, I'm not saying be rigid. Just be real and go with the flow and how the divine is wanting you to go into deeper service to self and then deeper service to our brothers and sisters. So mantra meditation, I'm just going to share real quick with you. 2 years ago, I couldn't walk. Mantra meditation and focused energy is what started stimulating the energy within. Okay? Mantra meditation, guys. Dedication to opening the heart. And not just the front of the heart and giving, but also receiving the intelligence of the divine, receiving a new experience, receiving that we're not separate, and letting it really, really, really crystallize within the vessel. Take shape, take form. How many of you are working on receiving right now? Yeah. Is it easy to give, but can we receive? Can we receive from God? Can we receive from these frequencies that are trying to stimulate us? Dedication to the inner consciousness as well as the outer. So some of our brothers have mentioned self-love, inner, redirection inward, not always just so outward, right? Because I'm just going to say real quick, sometimes we can get attached to action of service, but we can neglect the body. We can neglect. So redirect in. I'm going to talk about attachment, belief. As we're moving along our ascension process, especially as there's so much information and all these agendas coming in, I want to come back to our presence, our connection with God supersedes everything. and is the ultimate filtration system. And when we align with that, we are all knowing. And that wisdom and knowledge is evoked. We don't want to be attached. Attached to the stories, attached to the emotional imprints. Every single day, cleansing, purifying. However majestical and magical that looks, or how real and raunchy and like the cries of the release. Just being real. A lot of where we're going to be moving forward is a continuation of detachment for alignment. And it's always recalibrating. So we open in the heart, the womb, and the mind to take on a new experience in our lifetime. Because what the soulmate has mastered in the past, you could have a different calling this time, but bring forward your gifts, your soul mastery. Seven stages of development that we're going to be, you might already be there embodying, okay? Choosing to live liberated, sovereign, free. Collectively, individually, participating and co-creating that reality together. Mental focus is key. And I don't mean like that, oh, I'm just gonna focus on this. No. But allow, like if we're experiencing the fluctuations of the mind or the fluctuations of the emotional, spiritual consciousness, to keep the mind steady and let these fields of past or future timelines release for God to continue to anchor. But the mind is so easily, can be easily impressioned. But you are equipped. We are equipped, right? And so when we can keep a steady focus, a steady gaze, as we're experiencing emotional attachment and going through the detachment process, or however this looks for us in our daily lives, remembering that the function of the pineal gland, as well as our energy channels, have the ability to continue to recalibrate and crystallize oneness. So keeping a steady focus through our day, so awareness, right? So, oh, I got an emotional trigger, this is coming from an ancestral line, past life, whatever. Okay. Can I surrender and trust to the letting go and how the body is releasing or shaking that out? So we're honoring restraint. Oh. Restraint of some of our senses, restraint of patterning. So a lot of mastery could be, you can get curious about restraint, pulling in, being willing to remove impurities. And impurities could very well be belief systems. Removal of knowledge, even. You can get stuck to knowledge. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, Richard.
Intelligence as purpose. Oh, divine ones. What does that mean to you? To be an intelligent being filled with purpose. What does that mean to you? For you?
That's the human and the spirit and the soul. On purpose, intelligent design on purpose.
Can you say that again?
Intelligent
Divine vehicle.
So this isn't always a cognitive process. Actually, the latter. Surrender into our vehicle, the bridge of light consciousness. Deeper surrender, deepening our connection to soul and acceptance. Big acceptance of our luminous nature. Can we accept that?
So how do you trust in that? Because that's the biggest part.
Get out of the mind. Let's practice. Just real quick. How? How? Everyone, just quickly. How? How do I do this? How do I do that?
You love
Bring something out. Bring something forward that you could have been struggling with this last week. So let it come to the mind. Don't attach to it. Okay, you see it? Maybe don't feel it yet. Just be aware of it. Now come to a steady gaze. Pull in your light fields, however the soul connects with that. Pull it through the crown, down through the root. Not emotion, not mind. Just the vehicle being the bridge of light, letting that higher dimensional consciousness influence the how. With your breath, take a deep inhalation in, and exhale that on a 360 horizontal and vertical plane out through the energy field. This is one way we can utilize the subtle body, train the mind to release the emotional, mental, spiritual imprints, and allow the how to the trust arise. Thank you, Sarah.
Up next, our birthday boy, Imhotep, is gonna drop some
Are we taking like a 5 for bathroom and stretch, and I have to go myself, so we're taking 5.
It's just like a half dome, half pool, half sauna.
We're getting the preview from the sweat lodge.
This is conditioning you.
Do you know what material this is made out of?
It's a Pacific dome.
I see it's got, I don't know, cement or some kind of
Probably like
reinforced concrete.
I don't know, the guy who built it is gonna be speaking after lunch, so. Oh,
It's not a coincidence, so we're looking into building domes
Yeah.
for our phase 2 of our center.
Yeah.
And so when we got here, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's domes.
Yeah, I was excited about having it in here, just because it's not.
Yeah, the acoustics are awesome.
Yeah.
You're not using any mic system, are you?
Awesome, like right in the middle of just booms.
Right here. Yeah. So tomorrow I can bring 2 of the fans and run off with USB.
Yeah.
So I can run on backup USB.
Yeah.
So I have 2 of them. I have 3 power banks and 2 commuters.
Yeah.
And so I'm going all that. 2 smart plugs. There's some. But it's like it's that's why I'm thinking, so if you can bring the foldable
We can keep the doors open. And let's try to think.
He's like a lion.
Thanks, bro. And 1 minute remaining. Yes, it is. No. Hey, bud.
Hey guys, let's start. Make sure everybody's back. Thank you.
You made what time is it?
12:30.
12:30?
Yeah.
That's what I need.
We're gonna leave these doors open. I think that helps.